Well, hello again, everybody. You made it back to the Square the Circle music channel. That's right. Here where we talk about circles and squares. It's a music appreciation channel, a music discovery channel. That's right, we talk about vinyl record collecting and all sorts of wonderful things. So, it is the end of the year, and I guess we ought to do the obligatory. Everyone else is doing their best of 2024 lists, so I suppose I ought to jump on the fun bus, right? Uh, Strange year for me. Speaking personally, I had a lot of upheaval in my personal life, which I won't bother boring you with, but um, it made it increasingly difficult throughout the year to really focus on discovery and do what I normally do and just kind of seek out all of the beautiful, interesting things in the world of music that I enjoy so much. My life was fraught with frustration and just kind of garden variety horse pucky that people shouldn't ever be forced to deal with. But sometimes you have to strap on your muck boots and wade through the bog, uh, the bog of eternal stench that is life sometimes. So yeah, like I was saying, didn't have a lot of opportunity in my day-to-day life to really seek out new music. And to be quite frank with all of you, I've been wholly unimpressed with a lot of new music, especially that's been coming out of the United States here in America. Um, Nothing that really tickles my fancy, if you know what I mean. So, and that's for no real reason besides just my own personal sensibilities and whatever, which have, been changing quite a bit in my aging brain. And so, modern pop music, especially in America, just don't do it for me anymore. So yeah, I'm going to get into my top 10 list of 2024 stuff that I really enjoyed throughout the year. And these were all new discoveries to me, save a smattering of a couple. Um, but so this is stuff that I wasn't aware of. And I love that when I can just stumble upon brand new things to me and share it with all of you. So I'm not going to have an overwhelming amount of information and things to talk about as far as these albums go. And I had to take some notes, so I'll be referring to my little page of notes throughout this top 10 story. But I hope that doesn't bother you folks. This is just kind of a wing dinging operation kind of here. You guys know that. I have a long history of videos, so you can all backtrack on this channel and see the stuff I've done in past years. I took a little bit of a break, basically from mid 2023, I think, all the way up until most recently. Like I said, life takes hold, and I don't always have time to be creative on the YouTubes. So, without further ado, here's just a list of my top 10 favorite albums of the year, things that I believe garner a lot more attention than they received. And I hope you all can find little bits and pieces from this that you truly enjoy. So seek it out. I'll just jump right into it here. My number 10 album of the year. Starting with number 10, an artist I actually had heard before because I'm constantly cruising the the channels and waves that provide me with a lot of the type of music that I really enjoy listening to these days. I've all but not entirely ditched a lot of modern rock and roll, but like I said, it doesn't really give me a fire inside like it used to in my youth. And these days, when I have the opportunity to sit and enjoy music on the turntable, more or less I'm listening to instrumental music, ambient, mellow electronic music, because that's what really sets me in the right tone for most of my days. So again, this was an artist that I have been aware of, and this was a new release, a part two to his, not a series, but just kind of like a continued ambient works album that he has been doing, artist named Bibio, and the album being Phantom Brickworks, LP part two. LP Part 1 released quite a while ago, I believe. I think it was like in 2017. I remember stumbling across it right around like 2017, 2018. And so this is a continued idea in that series. Of course, this artist, hailing from the UK, again, his name is Stephen Wilkinson, and he's been known for years as doing all kinds of different things, but in his early years, I guess he was primarily known for kind of like lo-fi sounds, guitar, tape loops, you know, not really much of like an ambient artist per se, more of kind of like along the same lines as like, you know, Aphex Twin and those types of things where there was like, you know, more, you know, beat style kind of like things going on, you know, with even, you know, real mellow kind of hip hop influences and just kind of, you know, that sort of thing. And in these years since has really gravitated well toward, you know, darker ambient sound, which I really love and adore, obviously. This album focusing on conceptual design around places in the British Isles. I think primarily just in Wales, Wales and England. I think finding these really unique spots and like abandoned sites and buildings and houses and property and things, and like finding these places and kind of designing his musical themes surrounding these like abandoned liminal spaces or whatever, you know, very atypical ambient works. And so yeah, again, this, you know, definitely needed a spot on my top 10. I put it right at 10. Yeah, it's fantastic. Anyone that likes that lo-fi ambient sound, harkens to, again, you know, similar artists in that same vein as like if you guys have ever listened to or heard of a group called the Billow Observatory, or Stars of the Lid. Any of those artists, right up the same alley. You'll love it. So check that out. All right, well, number 9 on my list. Again, an artist hailing from not the United States. I think my list is literally comprised of uh, all of the artists on my list are not from the US, except for, yeah, something else. We'll get there. We'll talk about it. But number 9 on my list is a group called, I'm not sure if it's pronounced Les Big Bird or if it's just Less Big Bird. I think this is a group from Sweden. Yeah, I think from Stockholm, Sweden. And again, you know, researching this artist, there was no accent mark on the lay, so I don't know if it's pronounced lay, and they're from Sweden, so I don't know if that's how they pronounce it, but whatever. Lay Big Bird, Less Big Bird, pronounce it however you like. They're freaking fantastic. Um, interesting group, interesting album altogether. This one's called Diamonds, Rhinestones, and Hard Rain. Uh, what to say? It's just such a wonderful psychedelic experience. The music itself doesn't really sing tones of like psych rock. It's not a psych rock album, but there is, you know, obvious psychedelic influences, and the whole thing just feels like one long, you know, acid trip. I don't know if y'all are familiar with psychedelic substances, but it kind of feels that way. You turn this thing on and you're just going for a long, beautiful trip. Lots of influences from, you know, classic krautrock days of like the 70s and 80s. You're going to hear a lot of influences from new, obviously. What I liked about it so much was, again, that krautrock kind of, you know, mellow, kind of plodding along type of electronic sound, but married with that alternative rock psychedelic influence. Reminds me a lot of a band called Kikagaku Moyo. If anybody's ever heard that Japanese band, Kikagaku Moyo, fantastic band. But yeah, it's like a 39, 40 minute album. So more or less, I guess it could be construed as an EP, but um, it just like, it sings that type of a tune of like being an EP, because it's all focused around the centerpiece, of the title track, the Diamonds, Rhinestones, and Hard Rain. And there's no other vocalizations throughout the album. It's like 19 minutes leads up to this like centerpiece of a track where that's the only track that has any vocalizations. Um, and then again, kind of peters off toward the end as being kind of just like, I don't know. I love albums that have that type of, emphasis on the overall, I guess you could say, you know, just journey of the album where it kind of starts subtle, brings up to like a a middle kind of dynamic, and then kind of takes that dynamic and kind of peters out toward the end. That whole, clothespin, kind of thing, dynamic. It's fantastic. Reminds me also a lot of like things that, from like fantastic alternative and psychedelic rock of like the 90s when I was, a teenager and a young adult. Groups like the Dandy Warhols and stuff like that. You get a lot of those types of tropes and elements, and it really just kind of feeds that, weirdo alt rock part of your soul. But again, it just has that fantastic kind of Euro centric plodding along krautrock kind of thing. It's, yeah, really magnificent album. So everyone check it out. Beautiful artwork, overall conceptual design, just really fantastic. Again, Swedish band called Le Big Bird, or Less Big Bird. All right, moving on up the ladder here. We got number 8. This one, what a clever, incredible, I don't want to say bizarre. Bizarre is not a good word to use, but it's the first word that comes to mind. This is a group called Vox 11, and their album's called Under the Blue. Suiting title, the title and the artwork of the album kind of like sets the tone for the album. Don't be afraid, folks. It's not a bunch of like, whale sounds and, kind of like new agey type of vibes. I mean, you're gonna get kind of like subtle ambience of those types of sounds, but I don't know, man. I've never heard of them. Vox 11. I think they're also they're a German band. I was gonna say they're Swedish again, but they're not. They're German. And yeah, like I said, it's like opening up the door to a house of mirrors, and every room and part of this place you step into, you don't know what you're gonna find. If it's gonna be twisted and warped, or if it's gonna be straightforward. And it just has so many wonderful underpinnings of just all these fantastic genres that you all love so much, and it handles them all and packages them all, like kind of recapitulates and regurgitates it all back into something that's really one pristine package. It's so cool. It's like, I don't know, every door you open, you're just like surprised and overwhelmed. A lot of dark ambience, but also a lot of really cool, like pop sensible synth moments that are kind of dark wave meets, kind of post-punk, dream pop, shoegazy kind of stuff. Some really like goth elements, like 90s goth elements, and just, yeah, just dripping with synth, and just, lots of vocalizations from beautiful, female vocalists, with lots of undertones of a darker male vocalist, harkening back again to like things like 90s, like Typo Negative and, stuff like that. It's just, I don't usually find myself really getting into this type of kind of like synth goth, dream pop shoegazy stuff, which there are aspects and elements of it that I do love and adore. But yeah, just imagine like a Cockatoo Twins, just kind of on acid, just kind of, it's really, really great. Really great listen. Really great journey. Long album. This is an album I was, kind of researching it a little bit, and it's just bits and pieces that they have collectively been putting together for quite a long time, for Roughly, I think they said that they recorded the majority of it back in like 2017, and it was just kind of ideas that they were just kind of like slowly piecing together over the span of whatever, the last 6, 7 years, and finally got enough of it and wanted to sell it to the world. It's magnificent. It, like I said, it's a very lengthy album. It's at least about 50 or 60 minutes. So well worth your time. Well worth, it doesn't even take patience. Like I said, it's just a really magnificent, yeah, it just kind of swallows you whole. It's really great. So yeah, everybody check out that album by Vox 11 called Under the Blue. Alrighty, number 7 on my list. Gonna get a little bit harder than the last 3 selections that I have talked about. Again, mentioning mildly being disillusioned, I guess, with the world of hard rock and heavy metal and just rock and roll as a whole. Not a lot going on here in the United States of America as far as anything I really enjoy. There's still a lot of bands that I'm just like tried and true, and I stick with them, and everything they release is really fantastic. But a lot of my favorite rock bands haven't been releasing anything in the this last year, 2024. So again, yeah, I had to like really seek out and dig deep for stuff that really makes me excited. And this was a group I stumbled upon. Initially latching on to them because they reminded me a lot of one of my favorite bands, actually a local band here in the Pacific Northwest. They really reminded me a lot of these guys. And anyway, I'll just get into it. They're a group called Bunsen Burner. One word, Bunsen Burner, from Germany. Again, a German rock band. Album, well, it's actually an EP. It's a lengthy one though. It's at least about, I think it's 6 tracks, and it gives you at least about 35 minutes of music. It's really fantastic. It's called Squall by the band Bunsen Burner, a German band. It has everything in the meat and potatoes world of rock and roll that I really enjoy and desire. Lots of heavy riffs, primarily instrumental. To be quite honest, I can't even recall throughout the EP if there's even any vocalizations at all. There might be some minor moments, but I don't think so. I think they're primarily a instrumental hard rock. I guess it could be construed moments of it as heavy metal, but more in the vein of like, the kind of like desert rock, stoner rock, psych rock kind of thing. But they're also dabbling heavily with lots of really cool elements of jazz and lots of really excellent progressive moments and some, synthesized moments, but it's still really guttural. And like I said, meat and potatoes. It's just fantastic. Everybody check this album out. But yeah, what more can be said? This is probably, the most hard rockin' album that I got into in the last few months here that I found. And it just needed to be on my top 10. So yeah, number 7, Bunsen Burner with their EP Squall. Okay, well, number 6 on my list. I guess I lied a little bit about what I was talking about before. This is a pretty heavy band too, but heavy in a different way. Not so much of the kind of like meat and potatoes rock that I was talking about, with the psych kind of stoner desert rock feel. This is definitely a more refined, sound, what people like to kind of lump into that catch-all phrase of being post-rock, whatever the hell that means. I don't really know. I don't really use that term very often, but I would just say these guys are definitely, I don't know, I guess I could call them a prog band. But yeah, anyway, so a group that I'd never heard of again. They're a Swedish band, from some place that I can't pronounce. I wrote it down, but now I can't even read my own writing. Orebro, I think it's called, Orebro, Sweden. Swedish band called O Hiroshima. Album's called All Things Shining. Boy, right off the get-go, they just slapped me across the face. Of course, I was, looking at the artwork, incredibly gorgeous artwork. Um, I start listening to the album, and maybe I was kind of just expecting more of the same as far as these post-rock bands go, but no, it was immediately just kind of like this like massive sound, all kinds of orchestral ideas and symphonic themes going on. As soon as I hear these big moments and big sounds and lots of guitar and synth and there's like all kinds of like auxiliary percussion in the background. I hear castanets, flickering in the background, and the synth sounds are very cut and dry with just like simple chamber string sounds. And I was like, oh, these guys are great. And I just kept going, and as I was listening more and more, it was like it was giving me anxiety. I was like listening for like 20 minutes, and like every moment was like, but it was a good anxiety. It wasn't like that horrible, like I'm gonna have a heart attack and die type of anxiety. It was like I was anxious to hear like what these guys were going to do next. And it was just kind of like, I've been going with that now and listening to it for a couple months, and it's just kind of like, this has got to be on my top 10. Like it's magnificent. So many tropes and ideas that could be construed again as kind of like being like I guess prog metal, but I don't know. These guys they remind me more of like what things were happening in the 90s, like the vocalizations, they sing in English. It reminds me of the music I loved in high school, ideas that we were getting from Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails and Robert Patrick from Filter, and like those kind of, those industrial hard rock metal-ish ideas, but really packaged sonically, just kind of like overwhelming. And again, like I said, all those symphonic moments with like random auxiliary percussion instruments and things, and string sounds and shit. I think at one point in time even there's like some some subtle like reed sound instruments, and then gongs and timpani and things. It's fantastic. Everybody check it out. Oh Hiroshima, the band, and album's called All Things Shining. Okay, we're getting up the list here, getting to number 5. This again, no surprise to anyone that watches my channel and gets bored of me constantly talking about ambient music, but it's a big driving force in my life musically, and I love and adore most things that I come across. And it's actually kind of difficult to find newer artists to get really excited about when it comes to that, like I said, the world of ambient electronic music, because I like a lot of the the minimalist and the predecessors, just the guys who kind of were responsible for creating this genre. I get lost in that sauce a lot, and I forget to like really search out these newer ambient artists. And there's some really fantastic places to go look for that type of stuff, YouTube channels and whatever else. But really glad I stumbled across this artist. This is my number 5 pick. Actually kind of a little bit of a cheat, I guess you could say. This is a collection album, kind of a musical montage, so to speak, an artist that goes by the name of The Deafening Silence. Artist's name is James Parker, and this is his pseudonym that he uses, The Deafening Silence, and the album is a collection of his dark ambient works that he has been collecting and doing and putting out in short form and small albums, little bits and pieces that he publishes on Bandcamp and other things like that, and just finally built a big collection album for us this year, an album called Solace, the Dark Ambient Collection. So yeah, I mean, what else can be said? It's just lots and lots of beautiful, droning, dark ambient, which I adore. So anybody that likes that kind of stuff, you're gonna love this. Again, it kind of like, reminds me a lot of the stuff I really love from that kind of like drone ambient sound, Stars of the Lid, Billow Observatory. But this stuff being a little bit, again, it's a dark ambient collection, so there's some darker themes, darker elements. There's some electric guitar, some more kind of heavier synth sounds, and but you're even going to get, again, just kind of like somber, subtle moments. There is like bits and pieces of like pure piano sound, and pedal piano. Like you're going to get those Brian Eno and Harold Budd vibes from it as well. So yeah, what else can be said? Not a lot more. It's fantastic. It's my number 5 pick. Booyah. Okay, well, we're moving along pretty quick here. I'm sure you all appreciate that. I sometimes get hemming and hawing and jabbering on about all this stuff, and I like to make things as poignant and concise as I can here on the Square of the Circle Music Channel. Happy holidays, everybody. Year's end is coming up. I hope you all have had a happy one and a healthy one. I'm finally coming out of a little bit of a chest and head cold that I've had for like 2 weeks, driving me crazy. So pardon me again if I sound a little raspy. Let's keep going with this top 10 of 2024, shall we? Moving into the number 4 spot. Some more of that real kind of soft, subtle ambient sound that I love. That's stuff I gravitate toward, but this one's like really, really foo-foo and really, really kind of really mellowed out. So if you guys like really spacious, ethereal, mellow stuff, this is just fantastic. Very sorry, it's going to be really difficult for everybody to find. You won't be able to find a hard copy. It's only available through whatever streaming platforms and whatnot. I'm pretty sure you can find it on Apple Music. You can download it and get it from whatever, Spotify or whatever you're into. But I don't think you can get any hard copy of this at all, but maybe in upcoming years you might be able to get a hold of this. But you're gonna have to bear with me. This is gonna be a challenging one. Again, some more Central European stuff going on. I love those German artists, and this is a German artist by the name of Lune Fern, and another woman by the name of Marta Ginku, who is, I believe, Moldovan, from Moldova. She is a flautist, and he is an acoustic guitar player. And it's just the two of them. And so if you can imagine them sitting like in a dark cave somewhere, like in a forest, and playing their flute and guitar together, it's just magnificent. The album is called Zwischenraum. I believe that's how you pronounce it, Zwischenraum. I think it's a German word that means something along the lines of like the space between 2 points, or it's the space between 2 things. Fitting title, obviously. So there's no real group or group name or anything like that. It's just 2 solo artists collaborated on this, called it Zwischenraum. It is just astounding. Again, so if you like that really kind of like, hippy dippy kind of crunchy sound of flutes and guitars, just really open, ethereal, spacious, mellowed out kind of stuff, you're just gonna love this. I just adore it. It's a tried and true EP. There's not a lot of material on it, but there's just enough to just give you, ounces and pounds of the things that you really need out of your guitar and flute music. So that was way up on my list. I listen to it all the time. I have since I discovered it. You're getting kind of those, I don't know. I don't want to say like dungeon synth or like that popular kind of genre that's floating around a lot, where surf rock, I like to call it, SERF, surf rock, because the wood flute and the guitar just kind of reminds you of that kind of like traveling minstrel kind of thing, of like the middle-aged sound, what everyone's getting into. And it's not as kind of like frumpy as all that. It's very cut and dry, very straightforward. So I'm sure anyone that is into that kind of thing, you're really going to enjoy it. So beautiful art on the cover of the album, and yeah, get into it. It's great. Okay, we're getting close here, folks. Top 10 2024, my favorite albums. I'm going to throw a little bit of a cheat in here, so please forgive me about this, but I'm very excited. I'm very enthused, and I have been throughout the whole year. So I think I made mention of the fact that, I haven't been doing the YouTube videos for a while, and personal life takes over and things happen and whatever. You got to find a creative outlet in life. It's very important for everybody. Find something that you like to pour your creative energy into. I happen to be a pseudo musician, I guess you could say. I play the drums. I joined a band actually last year. And so it's been almost 2 years I've been in this band. And I'm very proud and very excited about it. And we've done some great things. We played just a massive amount of live shows all around Oregon, in all the major cities in Oregon. So we travel around and we play constantly. Live music is really our bag. That's what we really love to do. But we thought we would, try to take some of these newer tunes that we all kind of built together since I joined the band about 1.5 years ago, and we wanted to go into the studio. And we did. We went into a small-time studio here in Eugene, Oregon, and paid some money to some dudes and got everything mic'd up and recorded, and we got it all sent away and mastered and done all that, and we put out a little EP. Like I said, I'm very proud of it. So the band, go check it out. You can find it on Bandcamp, you can find it on Spotify, you can find it on Apple Music, DistroKid, all of those things out there. And we released a 5-song EP. Again, I'm very proud of it. It's titled All My Dreams Turn to Ghosts. The band is called Left on Wilson. I'm the drummer in the band Left on Wilson. And again, guys, support me, even if it's not your bag, even if you don't like the music. I don't care. Go and click on it and listen to it once or twice, or hell, even download it for $1. It's fun to support local musicians, even if you're not from the locale that I'm at or in. So do it. Check it out. Again, I said, I'm proud of it. It's something that I've been putting a lot of energy into, and that's primarily why you haven't been seeing me on the YouTube. So yeah, thank you very much for listening to my shameless plug from my band Left on Wilson. Go check out the EP All My Dreams Turn to Ghosts. All right, everybody, here we are. Top 2 albums of 2024, as far as my opinions go. Um, I'm a big fan of progressive rock. I love prog more than pretty much every other genre these days. But like we all know, it's difficult to find good prog rock bands that you can really latch onto, stuff that's worth the listen and worth getting into. I'm not saying there's a lot of garbage out there, but a lot of it just kind of like is thinly veiled and disguised as something that's progressive and whatever. I mean, it's more of just kind of the same old, just kind of uh, taking these templates given, to us by the greats and just kind of like recapitulating and just kind of regurgitating it. And I grow a little weary of that. Again, that's why, of course, there's nothing great going on here in America and in the United States as far as progressive rock goes. Everything is always just heavily saturated with just metal and black metal and dark metal and this and that, and everyone calls it progressive, and I just get so tired of it all. It's all so cookie cutter and refined and just spit back out at you, and I'm just like really just not into it. Um, and I guess I'm guilty of the same types of ideas about what should be progressive, and it's like a lot of the stuff I love does like harken back to like the glory days of the 70s, and the prog greats. But whatever, man, it's just my opinion. It's just what I'm into. This is a band to get really excited about if you're into progressive rock. I haven't really heard anybody talk about them. I've seen a couple other folks that I tune in for their top 10 lists and stuff, and they're all kind of prog nuts, and they really appreciate and love progressive music. I haven't really heard anyone talk about these guys for some reason, but for whatever reason, I don't know. I'm really excited about them. A band called Paralymph. The album's called Progressions Imaginaires. As you can imagine, well, I don't think they're a French band by nationality. I think they're kind of like a melting pot group that I think started in and around Switzerland or something like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they said it was like Switzerland. I think their they have quite a few albums. I believe this is like their third full length LP, or maybe their fourth. Did I write it down? Yeah, I did write it down. This is their fourth full length LP. And so what I was saying is, yeah, I think they're just comprised of like a group of a bunch of different dudes that all kind of like centered and found each other in Switzerland, but their albums are released on a record label in Germany. They sing in French. I'm assuming the band name and the album title and everything is French as well. But sometimes listening to it, okay, well, let's talk about the album. Really kind of like, what can I say? It kind of has those really kind of goofier elements that you would expect from, like 80s prog groups like Marillion and stuff like that. But it's kind of like cut back a little bit more. Like, I don't want to say they're withholding, but it just has a little bit more of kind of like, organic rootsy elements that, remind me of like Genesis from like 1976, 1977, like after Peter Gabriel left the band and Phil Collins and, whatever. They were just kind of like, their sound kind of, was just augmented to a certain degree. And I don't know, just a lot of the instrumentations and sounds and ideas. I was just getting a lot of like late 70s Genesis vibes, but still really kind of cool and intricate and long form. It's a lengthy album. There's like the album's cut into fours basically. And so you have kind of like an interlude or an introduction, and then you have a lengthy tune of like 9 or 10 minutes. And then there's like a second, interlude. And that's how they roll with the album. There's like four hearty chunks of the album, and they're all in the midst of those lengthy chunks, there's these little interludes, interlude 1, 2, 3, and 4, and kind of like the outro at the end. And I don't know, really just like, I'm not too keen on the album artwork, maybe done by a friend of the band or one of the band members themselves. It's a little bit cartoonish and silly, and sometimes that's one of the things I really, really love and respect about great prog bands is their overall artistic expression. And like, so you're getting this like magnificent, fantastical album art with this, but this album art's just kind of like a little bit of a disappointing, kind of like I said, cartoonish and goofy. But all in all, it really kind of gives you you know, a general sense of what you're getting into, because this music is a little bit light and lofty and kind of like feels a little bit cartoonish, you know, like the opening track, not the introduction, but like the opening like meteor track, I could be construed as track number 2. Um, you know, really cool jazz elements. You know, you sound like, it sounds like you're kind of almost listening to like some like Dave Brubeck or something like that. Really cool jazzy, you know, 5/4 time signature, and then every fourth bar they throw that extra quarter note in there, and you get the 6/4 to kind of complete the phrase. A lot of just those really like standard jazz tropes, but really like add a lot to it. It doesn't like dumb it down or dull it down. You know what I mean? Because you still get all those really, you know, wonderful, you know, scenic synth sounds, and you're hearing a lot of, you know, mellotron, and you're hearing a lot of, you know, sequenced synthesizer moments, and it's a really fantastic. It just got me so excited to discover a great prog band again, something I've never seen or heard. So now I have to delve into all of their back catalog and check that all out, and yeah, it's, I don't know what else did I write down about it. It's just really fantastic. Again, really excited to find some new prog that is worth all of the time listening to it and really absorbing it. Great singing, really subtle, kind of a mild mannered tone to his voice. Not a lot of like real, you know, bombast or eccentric moments. Kind of keeps things really subdued. Again, sings in, I believe, French. Sometimes, you know, it leaves me wondering. I don't know a lot about European languages, and I mean, I can tell when things are obviously French, but sometimes you hear words interjected that are just like, that doesn't sound French to me, you know. And learning about how Switzerland is obviously, you know, nestled in the middle of a number of just different crazy cultures. You know, the major languages in Switzerland, I think, are Italian and French and German or something like that. And so you kind of get just like this mismatch feelings of like all these different cultures and ideas, and maybe even the languages are kind of like being tossed around a little bit. I read about too, there's like a really like unique and rare dying language that is spoke primarily in Switzerland. It's called, what's it called, Romansh or something like that. I think it's called the Romansh language. It's actually a Romance language, and is, you know, on the verge of being completely dead. So maybe there's some stuff going on in there of that. It's again, you know, really like kind of that fantastical, you know, type of theme going for it. Doesn't really tell any specific story, I don't believe. Um, but it feels like it's a conceptual design, like a real kind of like, you know, fantasy novel kind of an idea type of album. Anyway, yeah, any of you prog heads love that type of stuff. If you love all the classics of, you know, Genesis and Yes and whatnot, you know, you like just the opening track too, like the sounds you get, it is absolutely, I wouldn't say a rip off, like direct rip off, but like it immediately takes you back to those vibes that, remember the first time you listened to John Anderson's Elias of Sun Hillow, you know, like that's the vibe you're getting, the Elias of Sun Hillow vibe. Very cool, very cool. So yeah, that's my number 2 album of the year. Uh, all right, here we are. Number one. Probably won't be any surprise to any of you that have ever checked out any of my video history or watched any of my stuff in the past. A lot of, you know, real big place in my heart for this group and these individuals. Originally hailing from the United States of America. Here it is, the one the one American band that made my list, and it happens to be number 1. But not really fair, because they ended up packing up and moving, and they moved over to Berlin. So they're in Germany now, and they have been for years and years and years, and have started all sorts of side projects. But this is the like big main side project of Nick DeSalvo, who is the lead singer, guitar player extraordinaire from the American band Elder. Again, now they're centered in Berlin, Germany, and they picked up a bunch of random, musicians that they befriended over there. I believe the other two members in his group that we're about to talk about here were musicians from a group called Gold and Silver. I think he did this great album Elder did called the Gold and Silver Sessions, a little EP that Nick DeSalvo played most of the instrumentations on, but then got these guys from this group called Gold and Silver, and they had an album popular at the time, fantastic album called Azurite and Malachite. He made that EP. I think these two dudes are from that group, and so being in Germany and not being able to like really focus heavily on Elder music. Their bass player still lives here in America, Jack Donovan, fantastic bass player, and really is like kind of the, I'd say like the real guiding force of what makes Elder more of a kind of metal, the metal influence, I think, comes a lot from their heavy bass player stylings. But anyway, long-winded, here I am talking about this album from a side project group that he started called Delving. This is the second release from his group Delving. Their first one called Hirschenbrunnen didn't really strike a chord with me for whatever reason. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I'm glad I stuck with it and paid attention when they first dropped this one this year. So yeah, that's the best album of the year, if you ask me. The album All Paths Diverge. That's what it's called. All Paths Diverge, by the group Delving. So yeah, some random artists that he befriended in Germany, and of course he has with him his tower, his stalwart, his best man on his side, who also plays guitar. I just adore everything he does. His name is Michael Reisberg. Michael Reisberg should be considered, the true driving force of the band Elder and of this project. I think he's the one that brought all of the inspirations that we're soon to talk about here, but all of the progressive and jazz elements that you hear. Just an incredible player, incredible musician. He's the one that plays all of the keyboard instruments, all the synth and all the cool, like, tropes that you love and adore out of true progressive, instrumental, hard rock, experimental, psychedelia. There's lots of elements of, again, like really cool krautrock, subdued, really kind of like low-key plotting type of moments. This album is just the masterpiece. The album art is incredible. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it in a nutshell. It's hard to really like break down every little bit and piece of it, because it's a conceptual design album in itself. Again, it sounds and rings true to like what a good prog album will do, but there's so many cool like heavy moments that are almost kind of like kind of hard rock and psych rock, but then they don't last long. There's always just so much kind of like it doesn't make you sick. It's not an up and down roller coaster ride where you're constantly just being like tossed around the room. It has so much cohesiveness. It just, I don't know. It's such a cornucopia of delight. It truly is. And I mean, look at the album art, and that's kind of what you're getting. It's just this like, smattering of just like beautiful colors and beautiful sounds and ideas, and all pristinely packaged. It is all instrumental, like I said, and big moments in the beginning. They bring you down in the center to try to like, kind of just give you this bubbling kind of like mellow, like I said, krautrock, kind of just plodding along type of thing, and then it just kind of like beefs up again toward the end. It's a pretty weighty album. I think it's at least about 55 minutes or more. So much to chew on, so much to enjoy, so much just, like I said, if you love hard rock and almost kind of like heavy psych rock, stoner rock stuff, there's huge beautiful moments of that. if you love, you know, just kind of your standard electronica, krautrock, smooth and driving kind of stuff, there's lots of that. Lots of excellent moments of experimental, you know, synthesizer work and just jazz elements, and just it's all over the place, and it's such a thing of joy. So yeah, that's my big number one, guys. So I got a little bit of everything in there, and I hope that all of you find a little piece of something that you can go in and enjoy. I wanted to try to make things, like I said, a little bit off the beaten path. I've grown weary of pop music, and I couldn't bring myself to just like sit here and try to enjoy the, you know, the new Cure album. And I mean, I love the Cure and I love what they were doing like all throughout the 80s and 90s. It's a huge part of what I love. Um, but I tried, and it just fell flat. You know, I couldn't bring myself to just listen to the new Jack White album and just try to convince myself and convince you guys that I like Kendrick Lamar or or Brat or whatever, all that horse pucky that everyone just keeps talking about. It's like none of it is any good. It's so awful. I really had to dig really, really deep, and everything I find just happens to be from Central and Western Europe, and that's just the best music in the world right now. Is just coming from, you know, Germany and Sweden and Norway and the UK, and you guys just, you know what you're doing. It's all so fantastic. So uh, I'll leave it at that. Uh, yeah, your pal, your host, Aaron Major, over here in Springfield, Oregon, in the United States of America. uh, have a happy new year, and keep them clean. Peace in the crease, y'all.